In a small town surrounded by vast, green forests, two brothers named Jake and Sam shared a special bond. They were not just siblings. They were best friends who spent every free moment together. Their days were filled with laughter, adventures, and the thrill of exploring the enchanting woods that lay behind their backyard. Jake, the older brother at 12 years old, was brave and curious. He had an adventurous spirit that often led them to tackle challenges that other kids their age would shy away from. With his tousled brown hair and bright blue eyes, he was always the first to climb trees or jump across streams. Sam, a year younger at 11, looked up to Jake with admiration. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. He was more cautious, but equally adventurous in his own way. With his sandy blonde hair and thoughtful green eyes, Sam loved to observe nature closely. He had a keen eye for detail, often spotting hidden wildlife that Jake would overlook. Every weekend was an opportunity for new adventures in the woods. They would pack their backpacks with sandwiches, water bottles, and their trusty pocket knives before heading out on their explorations. The brothers loved building forts from fallen branches and leaves or pretending they were explorers on a grand quest. They often imagined themselves as heroes in stories they had read, battling mythical creatures or discovering lost treasures. One sunny Saturday morning, as they ventured deeper into the woods than ever before, something felt different. The air was thick with excitement and mystery, as if the forest itself held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Their footsteps crunched on the twigs beneath them as they walked along a narrow path surrounded by tall trees that reached for the sky. "Let's go see what's down by the river," Jake suggested with a grin. "Okay, but let's stick together," Sam replied nervously. As they approached the riverbank, they noticed something strange, a series of large footprints leading away from the water. The brothers exchanged glances filled with curiosity and a hint of fear. "What do you think made those?" Sam asked quietly. "I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of animal," Jake replied excitedly. They decided to follow the trail of footprints, their hearts racing with anticipation. The prints were enormous compared to any animal they had ever seen before. As they followed the tracks deeper into the woods, they couldn't shake off the feeling that something extraordinary awaited them. Suddenly, they heard a rustling noise coming from behind a thicket of bushes. The boys stopped in their tracks, glancing at each other wide-eyed. Was it just a deer, or something much larger? Gathering his courage, Jake stepped forward and pushed aside the branches to peek through. What he saw shocked him. Standing there was a massive creature covered in shaggy brown fur. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It stood tall on two legs and had big feet that matched the prints they had followed. "Sam, look," Jake whispered urgently. Sam carefully approached his brother's side and gasped when he laid eyes on what could only be Bigfoot, a legendary creature spoken about in stories but never believed to be real. The creature turned its head slowly to look at them, its deep-set eyes revealing an expression of curiosity rather than aggression. For a moment, time seemed to freeze as both boys stared at Bigfoot in awe. Instead of fear taking over them, an overwhelming sense of compassion washed over Jake and Sam. "We need to help him," Jake said softly after what felt like forever. Sam nodded vigorously. He felt it too, the urge to protect this gentle giant who looked just as surprised by them as they were by him. From that day forward, their lives changed forever as they took on an unexpected adventure. One filled with secrets and friendship that would test their bravery like never before. Little did they know how this discovery would lead them into chaos and excitement beyond their wildest dreams. The sun shone brightly that day, casting a warm glow over the forest as Jake and Sam continued to follow the mysterious footprints. The excitement coursing through them was palpable, and each step felt like they were on the brink of an incredible discovery. The footprints were enormous, much larger than any animal they had ever seen in their explorations, and they led deeper into the woods, away from the familiar paths. "Do you think it's a bear?" Sam asked, his voice tinged with both excitement and uncertainty. "Maybe," Jake replied, his eyes gleaming with adventure. "But bears don't leave tracks like these. I've seen bear prints before, and these are way too big." As they walked, the sounds of the forest surrounded them. The rustling leaves, the distant call of birds, and the gentle flow of the nearby river. But there was also a strange silence, as if the animals sensed something unusual in the air. The brothers pressed on, their hearts racing with anticipation. After following the tracks for what felt like an eternity, they reached a small clearing. The sunlight poured into the open space, illuminating the area and revealing a sight that took their breath away. There, standing among the trees, was a massive creature covered in thick, shaggy brown fur. It was tall and powerful looking, with broad shoulders and large feet that matched the prints they had been following. "Jake, look," Sam gasped, gripping his brother's arm tightly. It's Bigfoot." Jake's eyes widened as he took in the sight before them. He had heard stories about Bigfoot from older kids at school, tales of a giant creature lurking in the woods. But he never imagined he would actually see one. The creature turned its head slowly towards them, its deep-set eyes filled with curiosity rather than fear. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as the brothers locked eyes with this legendary being. "What should we do?" Sam whispered, his voice barely audible. I don't know," Jake replied, feeling a mixture of awe and compassion. The creature looked just as surprised to see them as they were to see it. Instead of running away in fear, Jake felt a strange urge to help this gentle giant. With cautious steps, Jake took a few steps forward, urging Sam to follow. "We can't just stand here. We have to see if it needs help." Sam hesitated but finally nodded, his curiosity overcoming his fear. They moved closer, staying quiet as they approached Bigfoot. The creature watched them intently, tilting its head as if trying to understand what these two small humans were doing in its territory. "Hello, big guy," Jake said softly, unsure if Bigfoot could understand him. "We're not here to hurt you." To their surprise, Bigfoot made a soft rumbling sound that resonated deep in its chest. It seemed friendly enough, and the boys felt reassured by its calm demeanor. Sam's heart raced as he realized that this creature was not just some scary monster. It was alive and real, just like them. Suddenly, Bigfoot took a cautious step forward, lowering its massive head closer to inspect the boys. Jake could see its large brown eyes sparkling with curiosity. Sam felt a wave of excitement wash over him. He had always dreamed of seeing mythical creatures from storybooks come to life. "Look at how big it is," Sam exclaimed in disbelief. "I can't believe we found Bigfoot." "We need to be careful," Jake reminded him gently. "We don't know much about it." As they stood before Bigfoot, they began to notice small details. The way its fur glistened in the sunlight and how its strong hands moved gracefully as it reached out toward them. This creature wasn't just a legend. It was a living being that deserved respect. Bigfoot let out another low sound, almost like a sigh of relief mixed with curiosity. The brothers felt an overwhelming sense of compassion for this creature living alone in the woods. They realized that this moment was significant. They had discovered something extraordinary together. "We can't tell anyone about this yet," Jake said suddenly, glancing at Sam. "If people find out about Bigfoot, they might want to capture him or hurt him." Sam nodded vigorously, understanding immediately. They had stumbled upon a secret that needed protecting, a secret that could change everything for Bigfoot and for them. With a newfound determination, Jake and Sam made a pact right then and there. They would protect Bigfoot at all costs. Their adventure was only beginning, but they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead as they embraced their new role as guardians of this legendary creature. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows through the trees, Jake and Sam stood before Bigfoot, their hearts racing and minds buzzing with thoughts. They had never imagined their day would lead to this astonishing discovery. And as they gazed at the creature, a fierce sense of protectiveness welled up inside them. "What if we told someone about him?" Sam asked quietly, still staring wide-eyed at Bigfoot. "Imagine how famous we'd be." Jake shook his head slowly. "But what if they try to capture him or hurt him? We can't risk that." The brothers' eyes locked for a moment, both feeling the weight of their decision. They had always admired nature and its wonders, spending countless hours exploring the woods and imagining what lay beyond each bend in the trail. Yet this was different. Bigfoot was not just another part of the forest. He was a living creature who needed their help. "Look at him." Jake gestured towards Bigfoot, who was now sitting on his haunches, watching them with a curious expression. "He's not a monster. He's just alone." Sam nodded slowly in agreement, feeling a swell of empathy for the creature. "We can't let anyone hurt him. He deserves to live free like we do." In that moment, they realized that they both shared this deep understanding. They wanted to protect Bigfoot, not exploit him for fame or adventure. Jake took a deep breath, summarizing their thoughts. "This is more than just an exciting discovery. It's like we've been chosen to be his friends." The idea of being guardians over something as remarkable as Bigfoot filled Jake with a sense of purpose he had never felt before. They began discussing their intentions seriously now. "If we help him," Jake suggested, "we can find out more about him, what he eats, where he sleeps, how he lives out here. We could learn so much." Sam's eyes sparkled with excitement at the thought of this secret adventure that could turn into a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Just the idea that they could uncover Bigfoot's world ignited their imaginations. They would not only protect him, but also explore an entirely new dimension of life in the forest that no one else could see. As darkness crept in around them, casting eerie shadows among the trees, Jake and Sam sat beneath an old oak tree alongside Bigfoot. They shared stories about their own lives, their love for hiking, camping under the stars, and every other adventure they had shared over the years. With each story, they felt a growing connection with their new friend. To their surprise, Bigfoot listened intently. His deep-set eyes seemed to glow with understanding as they talked. Time flew by as they laughed and bonded, creating an unbreakable bond over their shared experiences. The brothers noticed how gentle and kind Bigfoot appeared when he leaned closer to hear them better, or when he let out soft rumbling sounds that seemed like laughter when they made silly faces. After some time had passed, Sam turned serious again. "So, how do we keep him safe? We can't let our friends know about him yet." Jake pondered this for a moment before responding. "We need to build him a shelter, a place where he can feel entirely safe from people, while still being close enough for us to visit him." Sam's eyes widened with determination. "Yes, we can use fallen branches and big leaves to make it cozy. We'll make sure it blends in so nobody can find it." With their plan taking shape, Jake felt energized just thinking about it. This was more than just an adventure. It was about friendship and protecting someone who had been wronged by living in isolation for so long. As they made their pact to keep Bigfoot safe and build him a home, both boys agreed that this journey would teach them valuable lessons about compassion and empathy. Not just for Bigfoot, but in understanding all creatures that roam through the woods. The sun sank further below the horizon as they hugged Bigfoot good night and promised to return soon with supplies for his shelter. Their hearts were full of excitement and respect for their newfound friend. Little did they know how many challenges lay ahead, and how deeply this decision would test their bravery and ingenuity in protecting Bigfoot from those who might want to exploit his existence. As they turned back toward home, armed with newly formed plans, the thought lingered in their minds. This incredible secret would bring them closer than ever before, as brothers while leading them into an unknown world filled with adventure and responsibilities unlike anything they had ever known. The following day dawned bright and clear, and Jake and Sam were filled with excitement as they set out to build Bigfoot's shelter. They knew it needed to be a safe haven, hidden from prying eyes, so they decided to look for a spot deep within the woods, away from the paths they usually traveled. With their hearts racing and minds buzzing with ideas, they grabbed their backpacks filled with supplies: rope, a small saw, and plenty of energy from the breakfast they had shared. "Let's find a place near that big boulder we saw yesterday," Jake suggested, recalling a massive rock they had spotted during their adventure. "It'll help protect the shelter from being seen." Sam nodded enthusiastically. "Great idea. Plus, it'll give Bigfoot some solid cover if he needs it." As they walked through the forest, they felt more determined than ever to create a cozy home for their new friend. They finally reached the boulder and surveyed the surrounding area. A cluster of tall trees provided natural walls, and low bushes formed a perfect barrier. It was ideal for keeping Bigfoot hidden while still being accessible for the brothers. "We'll need to use fallen branches and leaves to make the roof," Jake said, his mind whirring with plans. "And we can line the walls with leaves and moss to keep it warm inside." Sam grinned, picking up a sturdy branch from the ground. "Let's get started." The boys worked tirelessly, gathering materials from the forest around them. They scoured the area for strong branches and thick foliage. Sam was particularly good at spotting good materials, pointing out leaves that were large enough to provide shelter and moss that would add insulation. After hours of hard work, they had gathered enough supplies to begin building. They started by leaning long branches against the boulder to form a frame. Then they wove smaller twigs between them, creating a sturdy structure that could withstand the elements. "Look, it's already taking shape," Sam exclaimed as he stepped back to admire their progress. Jake nodded, feeling proud of their teamwork. "Now we just need to cover it with leaves to make it blend in with the surroundings." They began layering large leaves over the frame, making sure to cover every inch. It was important that the shelter not only kept Bigfoot warm, but also camouflaged him from anyone who might wander too close. As they worked, they joked and laughed, imagining how surprised their friends would be to know what they were doing. Once the roof was complete, they turned their attention to the interior. They gathered soft moss and laid it down on the ground to create a comfortable bed for Bigfoot. "This will help him stay cozy," Jake said as he piled it high. After finishing the inside of the shelter, they took a moment to admire their work. The structure was well hidden amongst the trees and bushes, looking like an ordinary part of the forest rather than a man-made shelter. "We did it," Sam said breathlessly, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It looks perfect." Jake beamed with pride. Now all we have to do is add some finishing touches. They decided to make a sign that read, "Bigfoot's Home," out of twigs and leaves, hanging it cleverly at the entrance of the shelter. It was a fun little touch that made them giggle, an inside joke between them and Bigfoot. As they finished up their project, dusk began to settle in, casting a golden hue over the woods. The boys stood side by side, breathing in the scent of fresh pine and earth, feeling accomplished. They had created something special, a secret sanctuary for their new friend. "Do you think he'll like it?" Sam asked with a hint of worry. "I think he'll love it," Jake assured him. "We put so much thought into this, and we did it together." With one last look at their handiwork, they decided it was time to return home for dinner, but promised each other they would come back first thing in the morning to show Bigfoot his new home. As they walked back through the woods, their hearts were full of excitement. Not just for their adventure, but for the bond they were forming with Bigfoot. This experience brought them closer together as brothers and allowed them to feel a sense of adventure like never before. They knew this was only the beginning of something magical, filled with challenges ahead and lessons in friendship and responsibility as guardians of this extraordinary creature living quietly among them in the forest. The sun rose high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the forest as Jake and Sam returned to Bigfoot's shelter, eager to share their lives with him. After building his cozy home, the brothers felt a sense of happiness knowing they had a new friend to spend time with. They were excited to learn more about Bigfoot and share their own stories in return. As they approached the shelter, they called out, "Bigfoot, we're back!" The creature peeked out from behind the boulder, his shaggy head bobbing in curiosity. A wide grin spread across Jake's face as he noticed the gentle look in Bigfoot's eyes. It was as if their friend had been waiting for them all along. "Look what we brought you," Sam exclaimed, holding up a bag filled with fruits from their garden, ripe apples and soft peaches. They had thought that Bigfoot might enjoy fresh food just like they did. Tentatively, Sam placed the fruit on the ground in front of Bigfoot. The creature leaned forward, sniffing the air with interest. Slowly, he picked up an apple with enormous fingers and took a bite. Juice dribbled down his chin as he munched happily, letting out soft rumbling sounds of delight. Jake and Sam couldn't help but laugh at how adorable he looked enjoying his snack. "Seems like he likes it," Jake said with a chuckle. For the next few hours, they shared stories about their lives back home, how they loved soccer and video games, and how sometimes they fought like all brothers do, but always made up in the end. Bigfoot listened intently, tilting his head from side to side as if trying to understand every word. In return, they began to notice how Bigfoot communicated in his own way. He would gesture with his hands, point toward things in the forest, or make soft sounds that seemed to express emotions. When Jake mentioned how much he enjoyed climbing trees, Bigfoot stood up and demonstrated how he could effortlessly scale a nearby tree trunk. The brothers watched in awe as he expertly climbed higher than anyone they knew could. "Wow, that's amazing," Sam shouted, clapping his hands together. Bigfoot carefully made his way back down and stood proudly before them. It was moments like these that made Jake and Sam feel closer to him. They were not just a boy and a mythical creature. They were friends sharing their worlds. To further bond with Bigfoot, the boys decided to teach him some of their favorite games. They started with hide and seek. "You know how to play? Just count to 10 while we hide," Sam explained enthusiastically. To their surprise, Bigfoot understood. He covered his eyes and began counting loudly, making all sorts of funny noises as he did so. Jake and Sam scrambled behind trees and bushes as quickly as they could. When it was time for Bigfoot to seek them out, He moved slowly but surely through the woods, peeking around trees while making exaggeratedly loud monster sounds that sent giggles echoing through the forest. When he finally found them hiding behind a particularly large oak tree, Sam burst out laughing at how surprised Bigfoot looked. The big creature let out a joyful roar of triumph that resonated through the woods, causing birds to scatter into flight. "Okay, your turn now," Jake said excitedly after several rounds of laughter-filled fun. Bigfoot then joined in on their game after understanding the rules better. With each turn of hide-and-seek, they discovered more about each other, learning who was sneaky enough to find good hiding spots and who could mimic animal sounds perfectly. As days turned into weeks, Jake and Sam continued visiting Bigfoot every chance they got after school and on weekends. They learned about his daily habits, how he loved bathing in a nearby stream during hot days or picking sweet berries from bushes at sunrise when no one else was around. Bigfoot also revealed his playful side by surprising them sometimes, like when he would swing branches like vines or imitate strange animal calls that echoed through the woods. This created endless laughter between the boys and their new friend. One day, while sitting around a small fire they built together outside the shelter, a welcome treat for s'mores, the brothers asked Bigfoot about the stars twinkling above them. Using hand gestures mixed with soft sounds, Bigfoot seemed to explain their beauty and importance. "I never thought I'd learn so much from you." Jake marveled aloud as Bigfoot nodded in agreement. Their bond grew thicker than any family tie, as days turned into treasured memories filled with laughter and heartwarming moments shared deep within the heart of nature. Through these experiences with Bigfoot, Jake and Sam not only learned about friendship, but also began discovering what it truly meant to respect all living beings around them. An adventure unlike anything they'd ever imagined before. As the days passed, Jake and Sam found themselves caught in a whirlwind of excitement and responsibilities as guardians of Bigfoot. While they cherished their time spent in the woods with him, they also realized that keeping Bigfoot a secret was proving to be more challenging than they had anticipated. One afternoon, while sitting around a small campfire with Bigfoot, the brothers began to discuss their worries. "What if someone sees us with him?" Sam said, poking at the fire with a stick. "People might not believe us, and they could try to hurt him." Jake nodded seriously. "We have to be extra careful. If Mom or Dad found out, they would freak out. They wouldn't understand that he's friendly." The thought of their parents discovering their secret made both boys uneasy. They had spent hours discussing how they would explain Bigfoot if they were ever caught, but no plan felt sufficient. What if someone in town spotted them sneaking food into the woods or heard about strange sounds coming from their secret spot? That evening, their fears took on greater weight when Sam's friend, Tommy, came over unexpectedly. He had that mischievous glint in his eyes that told Jake and Sam he was up to no good. "Hey, what are you guys up to? You've been acting all secretive lately," Tommy said, trying to peek at the backpacks the brothers had left by the door. Sam swallowed hard, quickly glancing at Jake. Nothing much. Just hanging out," he replied, attempting to sound casual. Tommy raised an eyebrow, but didn't press further. Instead, he grinned and suggested they play soccer outside. The boys agreed. But as they played, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of unease growing in his stomach. Every time he kicked the ball toward a nearby tree or turned to run after it, he half expected Bigfoot to come bounding into view. Later that night, after Tommy went home, Jake and Sam gathered in their room to talk through the events of the day. "What if he tells someone about us?" Jake said anxiously. "It's too risky to even let him know we're hiding something." "I just wish we could share Bigfoot with our friends," Sam sighed. "But I know it would change everything." People might see him as a freak or try to catch him. As the weeks went on, they faced more challenges related to their secret. The brothers became experts at sneaking around town while still finding time for Bigfoot. They learned to disguise their trips into the woods under the guise of other activities like going for walks or hiking. They developed a code language where they used simple phrases or gestures when discussing their adventures in front of others. At school, whispers floated around about mysterious sightings in the woods, tales of strange noises and shadows darting in the trees. Some kids claimed it was just animals, while others insisted it was something much bigger. Jake and Sam could only exchange nervous glances each time those topics came up. Then came the day when their adventure hit an unexpected snag. One afternoon, as the brothers returned from school, they noticed some townspeople gathered near the edge of the woods. A few kids from their class were pointing frantically at something in the distance. "What's going on?" Sam asked, eyes wide with worry. Jake squinted and saw a group of people examining footprints that looked eerily similar to those they'd seen leading to Bigfoot's shelter. Fear gripped his heart as he realized that if someone discovered these tracks, it would put their secret and Bigfoot in serious danger. Without thinking, Jake grabbed Sam's arm and whispered urgently, "We have to warn Bigfoot." The brothers sprinted toward the woods, fueled by adrenaline and dread. When they reached Bigfoot's shelter, their friend watched them approach with concern etched on his face. "Bigfoot, you need to stay hidden," Jake urged, scanning the area for any signs of danger. Bigfoot seemed to understand their urgency and quickly retreated deeper into the trees as Jake and Sam hurriedly explained what was happening. They felt a sense of urgency wash over them. If someone discovered Bigfoot now, everything could change forever. "Let's keep moving further away from town for a while," Sam suggested nervously as they kept an eye on their surroundings. And so began a new chapter of challenges for Jake and Sam as they navigated being guardians of Bigfoot while trying to keep him protected from the curious eyes of townsfolk. Each day brought new worries about how they could maintain their secret without losing everything they had built together. In those moments of difficulty, however, they also grew closer as brothers, learning valuable lessons about trust, loyalty, and the sacrifices one must make for those they care about most. The adventure they embarked on with Bigfoot was not just about uncovering secrets. It was about understanding that love often comes with its own set of challenges and responsibilities that make it all worthwhile. As the weeks turned into months, Jake, Sam, and Bigfoot forged a bond that was unbreakable. The brothers had learned not just to protect their friend, but also to appreciate the unique friendship they shared with him. With every visit to his hidden home in the woods, they discovered more about each other, a process that deepened their connection and trust. One sunny afternoon, Jake and Sam decided to create a special day just for Bigfoot, filled with fun activities they thought he would enjoy. "Let's teach him how to play some games we love," Jake suggested excitedly. Sam agreed, and they set off toward Bigfoot's shelter with arms full of supplies. When they arrived, Bigfoot peeked out from behind a tree, his big eyes sparkling with curiosity as he recognized his friends. "Hey, Bigfoot, we have something fun planned," Sam called out as he waved his arms enthusiastically. The creature lumbered toward them and let out a low rumble that sounded strangely like laughter. It seemed eager to see what the boys had in store for him. They spread out a big blanket on the ground under the shade of a tall oak tree and set up their snacks: peanut butter sandwiches and fresh berries. "First things first, let's eat," Jake announced with a grin. The three of them gathered around the blanket, sharing food and laughter while swapping stories about their days. Bigfoot picked up a sandwich carefully between his fingers, looking at it quizzically before taking an enormous bite, followed by an expression of pure bliss. "This is so good. You have great taste, Bigfoot," Sam said between giggles as juice dribbled down Bigfoot's chin. After lunch, they decided on playing tag, a game that required some modifications due to Bigfoot's size, but turned out to be hilarious nonetheless. When it was time for him to chase after the brothers, they couldn't help but dart behind trees in playful panic as he moved slowly yet deliberately behind them, his giant footsteps creating monumental thuds that rumbled through the forest. "Can you see us?" Jake challenged as he hid behind a massive trunk. Bigfoot pretended to squint his eyes in concentration before lunging forward with surprising agility for such a large creature. The delighted shouts of laughter rang through the peaceful woods as Sam squealed when Bigfoot tagged him by reaching down gently and tapping him on the back. "Now I'm it," Sam shouted playfully as he chased after Jake while laughing uncontrollably. In those moments of sheer joy, all worries about keeping their secret faded away. Time felt irrelevant. This was pure friendship, a delight in exploring each other's worlds without fear or doubt. Another afternoon brought with it the opportunity for learning. It was time for fishing. Jake and Sam had brought along makeshift fishing poles crafted from sticks and string. They explained how to catch fish in the nearby stream using bait made from dough mixed with bits of bread. Bigfoot listened intently, mimicking their motions clumsily but enthusiastically. "Let's see who can catch the biggest fish," Jake proposed as they settled beside the clear water flowing through lush green rocks. For hours they sat together in silence, waiting patiently while bonds tightened as nature wound its way into their hearts. It wasn't long before one of Jake's lines went taut. "I got one," he exclaimed desperately, reeling it in while trying not to scream too much from excitement. Bigfoot watched intently as Jake caught a shimmering trout that flopped gleefully at his feet, and then suddenly made an impressive move when another fish leaped out of the water right next to him. In an instant, reflexive action rarely seen before by either boy, yet entirely expected by now, Bigfoot shot forward with a hand scooping up both fish directly from midair. "He caught it!" Sam burst out laughing as he watched wide-eyed in disbelief at how quickly their friend had understood what fishing meant. As evening began casting soft shadows along their campsite, filled with giggles still echoing throughout its depths, the boys helped clean up their catch. This experience solidified everything between them, stronger than ever. Sharing skills and traditions, transcending boundaries laid down by appearances or belief systems, were perhaps exactly what lifelong friendships were built upon. Each adventure together, with every wild roar of joy during tag games or gentle chuckles exchanged over cooperative fishing excursions, was a building block that led them closer together than any simple bond ever could achieve alone. Laughter resonated against nature itself, becoming connected strands, weaving through promises made within sacred protective agreements, fostering kinship never imagined possible before stepping onto this shared path paved by trust alone, amidst giants hiding quietly among familiar trees, swaying softly in harmony. Alongside brothers, joyful frolics, intertwining forevermore into tales told long after summers ended, amid winds blowing brilliantly golden hints from forgotten yesterdays. With each passing moment spent alongside one another, developed cherished memories, bolstering unyielding bonds, strengthening above all else, leaving lingering warmth despite cold nights or hidden threats, crafting endless adventures ahead, awaiting more paths, yet traveled echoing softly through heartbeats shared away. Among flora, breathing encircled deeply today, culminating into friendships eternally entrusted, forever enthralled, embarking endlessly onward, hand-in-hand united spirit cousins, beneath wild starlit skies, bathed brightly glowing bonds, constructed silently, dancing beyond serenity, watching overhead constellations, twinkling eternal dreams, held dear forever. A light amongst kindred souls finding comfort after grand journeys undertaken together. Side by side through life's captivating beautiful twists, tracing all sacred routes chosen, creating blissful futures sparkled onward, step by step, side by side lifting spirits ever higher through cherished adventures, shared elevating souls framing magnificent tales, once begun, destined, never fading, bright eternity compositions, glowing, intertwined. One late afternoon, as Jake and Sam walked through the familiar forest path, a sense of unease tinged the air. The leaves rustled more restlessly than usual, and the chirping of birds seemed quieter, almost as if the creatures of the woods sensed something ominous nearby. The brothers exchanged worried glances, their instincts honed over months of adventure with Bigfoot. "Do you think something's wrong?" Sam asked, his brow furrowing as he glanced around. Jake nodded. "I don't know. Let's hurry to Bigfoot's shelter." As they picked up their pace, they heard faint but distinct voices drifting through the trees. The boys instinctively moved closer together, their heartbeats quickening. A patch of sunlight broke through the branches ahead, illuminating a clearing where they spotted two men in camouflage gear crouched near the base of a large tree, their backs turned to the boys. "What are they doing?" Sam whispered, peering through the foliage. "I think they're looking for something," Jake replied, worry creeping into his voice. "We need to find out what." They quietly crept closer until they could hear one of the men speaking clearly. "If those footprints lead us to Bigfoot, we'll be famous. Just think of the money we could make from putting him in a zoo." At that moment, a chill ran down Jake's spine. "They want to capture him," he gasped. "We have to warn Bigfoot." The two brothers hurriedly backtracked toward Bigfoot's shelter, adrenaline pumping through their veins. They exchanged fearful glances as they moved swiftly through the trees. They couldn't let anyone take their friend. They knew how cruel people could be when it came to fame and fortune. When they finally reached Bigfoot's cozy home, he was sitting quietly, appearing just as calm as always. But when he caught sight of the brothers' frantic expressions, his playful demeanor vanished. "Bigfoot, you have to hide," Sam urged breathlessly, pointing back toward the direction they came from. "There are hunters in the woods. They want to capture you." Bigfoot stared at them wide-eyed and nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. He hurried deeper into the shelter behind some thick brush, attempting to conceal himself as best he could. "Stay quiet," Jake whispered as he glanced nervously toward the entrance of the shelter. "We need to think of a plan." The brothers huddled together, brainstorming ideas on how to protect their friend. "Maybe we could create a distraction," Sam suggested thoughtfully. "Yeah, if we can lure them away from here," Jake replied brightly. "But how?" The boys knew they needed something loud enough to draw attention, but far enough away to keep Bigfoot safe. Without another word, Jake began searching around the area for anything that might help. "Look, we can use these," Sam exclaimed, pointing to some old pots and pans they had collected during one of their previous adventures. Jake's eyes lit up with excitement. "Perfect! Let's make some noise." They quickly set up behind a nearby tree and began banging the pots together, creating a loud clanging noise that echoed through the forest. Their hearts raced as they worked together in a flurry of excitement and fear. They both hoped this strategy would work. "Hey, what was that?" one of the hunters shouted from afar. The two men turned their heads, confusion crossing their faces as they tried to pinpoint the sound. "It came from that direction," another man yelled, leading his friend away from Bigfoot's shelter. Jake and Sam watched intently as the hunters moved further into the woods, their footsteps fading away. Relief flooded over them as they clanged the pots one last time before putting them down carefully. They shared a triumphant smile. "Let's check on Bigfoot," Sam said, leading the way back to their friend. When they reached the shelter again, Bigfoot emerged cautiously from his hiding spot, still wary but relieved at seeing his friends safe. "You did it," he rumbled softly, his voice low yet filled with gratitude. Jake beamed proudly at Bigfoot while panting slightly from all the excitement. "You're safe now." But even as relief washed over them, Jake and Sam felt a lingering worry creep back into their hearts. This close encounter made it clear that their secret was not just special, it was also dangerous. "We have to be more careful from now on," Jake said seriously, casting a glance toward where the hunters had gone. "If they come back or if others find out." Bigfoot nodded knowingly, understanding that their world and theirs were now intertwined with danger lurking just outside their sanctuary. With determination dancing in their eyes, Jake and Sam vowed to protect Bigfoot at all costs, to keep him safe from those who sought to exploit him. As they prepared for future adventures together, they knew that every day would come with new challenges that needed their strength as brothers and guardians, combined with trust and courage, forming unbreakable bonds stretching across vast wilderness, beautifully glimmering alive, with possibilities waiting endlessly under starlit skies, blooming over heads glowing brightly ahead. The next day, as the morning sun cast a warm glow over the forest, Jake and Sam gathered at their usual spot to discuss their plan for Bigfoot's safety. The encounter with the hunters had left them shaken, and they knew they needed a more permanent solution to keep their friend hidden from those who might want to capture him. "We can't just rely on distractions anymore," Jake said, pacing back and forth as he thought aloud. "We need a solid plan that keeps Bigfoot safe even when we're not around." Sam nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. "What if we created false trails? We could lead any hunters or other curious people away from here." "That's a great idea," Jake exclaimed, excitement bubbling up within him. "We can make it look like there's been activity leading in a different direction." As they continued brainstorming, Sam suggested, "We could also reinforce Bigfoot's shelter to make it even harder for anyone to stumble upon it. Maybe we can use some extra branches and leaves to camouflage it even better." "Exactly," Jake replied, his mind racing with ideas. "And we should leave some food along the false trails, like berries or nuts, to draw attention away from Bigfoot's actual location." They quickly agreed on the details of their plan and set off toward the shelter with renewed determination. The forest felt alive around them, each rustling leaf and chirping bird echoing their resolve. When they arrived at Bigfoot's home, he greeted them with a gentle rumble, sensing their urgency. The brothers explained their elaborate scheme, emphasizing how important it was for him to stay hidden from prying eyes. "We're going to create some false trails that lead away from here," Jake explained. "And we'll reinforce your shelter so it blends in even more with the surroundings." Bigfoot listened intently, nodding as he understood the gravity of the situation. He seemed ready to assist in any way he could, eager to help protect their friendship. First, they got to work on camouflaging Bigfoot's shelter further by adding more branches and leaves around it. Sam climbed up into a nearby tree to gather some foliage, while Jake arranged the materials carefully around the entrance. Once they finished reinforcing the shelter, they moved on to creating the false trails. Sam broke off small twigs and scattered them along a path leading deeper into the forest, while Jake placed berries strategically along this new route. "Let's make it look like something has been wandering through here," Sam suggested as he kicked some leaves about to give the illusion of recent activity. Once satisfied with their work, they stepped back to admire their handiwork. The false trails looked convincing, and Bigfoot's shelter was now even better concealed among the trees. "Now all we have to do is keep an eye out," Jake said, glancing back at Bigfoot with a reassuring smile. "We'll take turns checking on you every day after school." Bigfoot rumbled softly in agreement, clearly appreciating their efforts and dedication. As they made their way home that evening, Jake and Sam felt proud of what they had accomplished together. They had come up with a clever plan that not only protected Bigfoot, but also strengthened their bond as brothers and guardians. Over the next few weeks, they diligently followed through with their plan. Each day after school, one of them would check on Bigfoot while the other stayed home or did activities that kept them away from being spotted by townsfolk. One afternoon, while Sam was visiting Bigfoot alone, he noticed that something felt off. The woods were quiet again, too quiet, and he felt a chill creeping down his spine as he caught sight of footprints near the entrance of the false trail they had created. "Not again," he thought in panic as he crouched down low behind some bushes to observe what was happening. To his horror, he spotted two familiar figures lurking nearby. Those same hunters. They were examining the ground closely and discussing their plans again to find Bigfoot. Sam's heart raced as he considered what to do. Remembering his brother's advice about staying calm in dangerous situations, he carefully made his way back toward where Bigfoot was hiding. He needed to warn Jake. This time would require more than just distractions. When Sam finally reached home later that evening, he found Jake waiting anxiously for him at their secret meeting spot near the edge of the woods. "Sam, what happened?" Jake asked worriedly. "There are hunters back out there. I saw them trying to track down Bigfoot again," Sam exclaimed breathlessly. Jake's face fell as anxiety washed over him again. "We need to act fast. If they're close enough to see those footprints." The brothers exchanged determined glances before brainstorming how they could outsmart the hunters once more, while keeping Bigfoot safe from harm's reach for good this time. With renewed energy fueled by bravery forged through friendship, all obstacles now only strengthened resolve. They prepared themselves for whatever danger loomed ahead. Promising adventures awaited, alongside beloved friends safe, awaiting triumphs lying fiercely ahead. The days stretched into weeks, and as Jake and Sam continued to protect Bigfoot, their bond grew deeper than they could have ever imagined. However, a feeling of tension hung in the air, especially among the brothers. They had kept their secret hidden for so long, but the weight of it began to feel heavy on their hearts. One warm afternoon, while sitting at their usual spot by the edge of the woods, Jake turned to Sam with a serious expression. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if we just told someone about Bigfoot?" he asked tentatively. Sam looked thoughtful, staring out into the treetops. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I just don't think most people would understand. They might see him as a monster instead of a friend." Jake nodded, deep in thought. "I know. But what if someone else finds out? What if those hunters come back again? It feels like a risk keeping him hidden forever." The conversation weighed heavily on Sam's mind. He had grown fond of Bigfoot, who had become more than just a secret. He was family now. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. I want to keep him safe." With the sun setting and casting golden light through the trees, they decided to visit Bigfoot to discuss the matter. As they approached the shelter, both brothers felt anxious about how their friend might react to the idea of revealing his existence. "Bigfoot!" they called out as they entered the clearing. The gentle giant emerged from behind some trees, his large eyes sparkling with curiosity. After settling down together under the familiar oak tree, Sam took a deep breath and spoke up. "Bigfoot, we've been thinking. What if we told someone about you? Maybe someone who could help keep you safe." Bigfoot tilted his head slightly, his expression shifting to one of concern. He rumbled softly, clearly sensing the tension in the air. Jake chimed in. "We know how dangerous it is with hunters around. But maybe there are people who would appreciate you for who you really are." Bigfoot listened intently as they explained their worries about keeping him hidden for so long, and how difficult it was to maintain the secrecy without putting him at risk. They shared their fears of being found out and how that could lead to danger for him. In that moment of vulnerability, Bigfoot seemed to understand their dilemma. He looked around at the forest he had called home for so long and rumbled again, conveying emotions that transcended words. There was a mix of sadness and hope reflected in his deep-set eyes. "What if we could find someone who would protect you? Someone who understands," Sam suggested, his heart racing at the thought of revealing their secret. Bigfoot pondered this idea deeply, his massive frame still as he contemplated what it meant for his life. He had grown fond of Jake and Sam. Their laughter and kindness filled his days with joy. But now he felt the weight of being hidden in solitude, away from the world. Jake watched as Bigfoot's expression shifted from concern to a flicker of trust. "We wouldn't do this lightly," he reassured him quickly. "We would make sure it's someone trustworthy, someone who cares about nature and wildlife." After what felt like an eternity of silence, Bigfoot finally rumbled a soft sound that seemed to convey acceptance mixed with apprehension. It was clear he wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea, but also recognized the danger they were all facing. Sam felt a rush of relief, but also knew this decision couldn't be taken lightly. "If we do this," he said cautiously, "we have to be prepared for how people might react. Some might want to capture you or exploit you." Bigfoot nodded slowly, and Jake placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "We'll figure it out together," he promised. "You're not alone in this." The weight of their decision hung heavy in the air around them as they shared determined glances with one another. They understood that revealing Bigfoot's existence was an enormous step forward, one that could bring them closer together as friends, but also introduce unforeseen challenges. As they sat together under the vast sky filled with twinkling stars, an unspoken agreement formed between them. They would take this journey together, no matter what lay ahead. With renewed determination blooming among them like flowers emerging amid spring's embrace, they resolved to find a way to protect Bigfoot while sharing his story with those who would celebrate him rather than seek to control him. In that moment of revelation, hope blossomed anew. An adventure awaited them that would not only change Bigfoot's life, but also reshape their understanding of friendship and courage in ways they had yet to discover. As the seasons changed and time passed, Jake and Sam found themselves reflecting on the incredible journey they had embarked upon with Bigfoot. What began as an unexpected encounter with a legendary creature transformed into a profound experience that taught them invaluable lessons about friendship, loyalty, and the importance of protecting nature. Sitting on a log near Bigfoot's shelter one evening, the brothers gazed up at the stars twinkling in the night sky. The forest around them was alive with sounds, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of owls, and the gentle breeze that whispered through the trees. It felt like the perfect moment to reflect on everything they had learned. "I can't believe how much we've been through," Jake said, his voice filled with awe. "When we first found Bigfoot, I thought it would be just a cool secret, But it turned into something so much deeper. Sam nodded thoughtfully. I know what you mean. I never thought I could care so much about someone who isn't human. Bigfoot isn't just a creature, he's our friend. We've shared so many amazing moments together. Their bond with Bigfoot had blossomed into a family-like connection, one built on understanding and trust. They had learned to listen to him and appreciate his unique perspective on life, which was so different from their own. The experience taught them that friendship transcended appearances and that true bonds were formed through shared experiences and mutual respect. Remember when we first played those games? Jake grinned, recalling the laughter that filled the forest as they played tag together. Bigfoot's enthusiasm was infectious. He really became one of us. Sam chuckled, remembering how Bigfoot would lunge toward them with his giant frame, but his gentle spirit always shone through. And those fishing trips. I never thought he'd catch fish better than us. The brothers realized that their adventures were not just about fun. They also learned about loyalty and standing up for someone in need. They had faced threats from hunters, navigated the complexities of keeping Bigfoot hidden, all while understanding the responsibility that came with having such a secret. I feel like we've grown up a lot, Sam said, his voice steady. It's taught me how important it is to protect those who can't protect themselves. Bigfoot deserves to live free without fear of being captured or exploited. Jake agreed wholeheartedly. We've learned that every creature has its place in nature, and they deserve respect. A lot of people don't see that, but we do now. They both looked over at Bigfoot, who was quietly listening to their conversation, his large eyes reflecting kindness and gratitude. He had taught them lessons about acceptance and friendship that extended beyond words, a gentle giant who embodied loyalty simply by being himself. We have to share his story, Jake declared resolutely, determination shining in his eyes. We need to show others that creatures like Bigfoot are worth protecting. Sam's face lit up with excitement. Yes. If we can make people understand that he's not a monster, but a friend and part of nature, maybe we can inspire change. The brothers committed themselves to advocating for wildlife protection in their community, drawing on their experiences with Bigfoot as a source of inspiration. They envisioned organizing events at school to teach their peers about respecting nature and all creatures big and small. As they plotted their next steps, Jake and Sam realized that they were now more than just guardians of Bigfoot. They were ambassadors for nature itself. Their journey had transformed them into advocates for wildlife and nurtured a profound sense of responsibility toward the environment they cherished. With renewed purpose and determination in their hearts, they felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together as brothers, protectors, and friends. Underneath the vast canopy of stars, a sense of peace enveloped them as they made plans for their future endeavors. More than just an adventure shared with a unique friend, they saw how their experiences shaped them into compassionate individuals committed to making positive changes in the world around them. As Jake, Sam, and Bigfoot sat together under the twinkling sky, they embraced their roles as guardians of nature, knowing their journey held wisdom that would ripple out into the world. A legacy of friendship built on love and respect for all living beings that would last long into the future.